Hello, everybody. How are all of you doing? I hope all of you are doing good tonight. It is me back again, and it is Friday night, July 5th, 2019, and it is currently 11 o'clock at night right now. And this is basically going to be a story video about another embarrassing thing that happened to me in the past. Now, it's been a little while since I last did a story video. I believe the last story video I did was back in November when I talked about the time that I got beat up by these older kids back in either late 2013 or maybe even early 2014. Somewhere in there. I remember it was when I was getting home from school. I was on the bus with all the kids in my class, and I asked the bus driver if he could drop me off at this one gas station that was right by my house. And so he said yes. And I remember he parked the bus next to the sidewalk so he could let me get off the bus. And so after I got off, he drove off so he could take other kids home. And I remember I went into the gas station. I believe it was like a Shell gas station. I don't quite remember since it's been so long ago. But I remember I went over to one of the coolers in that convenience store. And I believe I got me a water. I don't quite remember which drink I got, since it's been such a long ass motherfucking time. But I remember once I got the drink, I paid for it and I left the gas station. And I remember I was walking on the sidewalk heading back to my parents' house. And while I was heading home, these dumbass, faggot ass motherfucking kids came out of nowhere. And I remember they walked right up to me and they just beat me up for no apparent reason. And yeah, I did a story video about that. And now this will be the story of when I threw up back in first grade. Now, I remember this incident happened sometime back in either March or maybe even April of 2009. I do not remember the exact date that this incident happened, but I do remember it was on a Thursday around that time when this shit went down. I remember that day around that time. Me and all the kids who were in my class watched a movie in the cafeteria. And I remember when I first got to the school that morning, I felt fine. There was nothing really wrong with me. I remember when I first got... Also, I forgot to mention that most of the day I felt fine. I remember when I first got to the school that morning, I went to my classroom and basically I sat on the rug with all my classmates and all of us listened to our teacher read a book to us or whatever. And I remember like an hour later, the teacher told all of the kids who were in my class, including me, that we were going to go watch a movie in the cafeteria. And I remember me and all the kids who were in my class were so fucking happy. And it was like 30 minutes after that our teacher announced it. We headed to the cafeteria. We sat in some chairs. And I remember we all watched the movie together. Now, I believe the movie that we watched was The Incredibles. I don't quite remember the movie that we watched. It's been such a long-ass time, that's why. But I remember I sat in a chair in the cafeteria and I had a drink and some popcorn. And after that, I felt fine. There was nothing really wrong with me. And once the movie ended, me and all the kids who were in my class, we got up out of our chairs, we lined it up, and we headed back to our classroom. And we did the same thing that we did when I first got to the school that morning. We sat on the rug and we all listened to the teacher read the same book to us. And I remember there was this one teacher named Miss Johnson who came to get me. I remember I would always go to her class and learn about grammar, because at the time I had really bad grammar, in which my grammar still is not the best, but at least it's still somewhat better than it was back then. And so I remember she walked into the classroom and she told me to come on. And so what I did was I got my ass off of the rug and I walked with her to her classroom. And once I got to her classroom, I sat at my desk in her class and she sat at hers as well. And I remember we were talking to each other. And while I was talking to her, my stomach started to feel like shit. And so I got up out of my seat and I threw up all over the floor like, boo, boo, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not really good at doing impressions. And I remember there was these two black girls who were sitting at the computers in that class, in which I am not trying to be racist. I'm just describing their race. I remember Miss Johnson told both of them to get out and head back to their class while I was throwing up. And after I threw up, I felt fine. I was just, God, I can't talk well. I was just so fucking embarrassed. You know, throwing up in front of like 3 people. Who the fuck would not even be embarrassed by something like that happening? And I remember after all that chaos went on, Miss Johnson called the nurse and told her to bring me a new pair of clothes. And I believe it was like 5 minutes or maybe even 6 minutes after I threw up. I remember the nurse walked into the classroom and she walked right over to me where I was sitting at, and she handed me my new pair of clothes. And so what I did was I went to that one bathroom that was right across the hall from the classroom I was in, and I went into a stall in that bathroom. I changed my clothes because when I threw up, I got a little bit of puke on my clothes, and so after I changed my clothes, I headed back to Miss Johnson's class, and I remember they had a couch in her class, so I sat on the couch, and I remember there was this one other substitute teacher who was in that class. I believe her name was Miss Pam. I don't quite remember what her name was, since it's been so many fucking years ago. But I remember she walked into the classroom and she was holding like a yearbook in her hands or whatever. And she turned her head and saw me laying on the couch in Miss Johnson's class. And she asked me if I felt bad. And I remember I responded to her saying, "Yes, I feel really bad." And after that, Miss Johnson told me to go to the nurse's office. And so I headed to the nurse. And once I got to the nurse made me sit in that wooden chair that she had in there. And I remember she checked to see what the hell was wrong with me. I believe she might have told me that I had like a fever. She also might have told me that I had like a stomach virus as well. And so after she checked to see what was wrong with me, she called my mom and she told her that I was really sick. And she told her to come up to the school and pick me up. And my mom did not get to the school until like I believe 20 or maybe even 30 minutes later. And so after the nurse was done talking to my mother, she told me to go sit on the bench in the hallway and wait for my mom. And so I went into the hallway and I sat on this little green bench, I believe. I don't quite remember. Once again, it's been so fucking long ago. And I remember I was sitting there for about, I believe, 30 minutes. And my mom came in to the hallway and she told me to come on. And so I got off the bench and I walked with her out of the school. And so I went home, and there was a couple of more times later that day where I threw up when I got home. I remember I was laying on the couch in our living room back at our old house, which is right up the driveway from the house that we currently live in now. I remember I was just laying on the couch in our living room at our old mobile home, and I believe I was watching TV or whatever. I can't really remember too much. It's been a very motherfucking long time ago, but I remember there was a towel that was laying on the floor right in front of the couch because my parents did not want me to throw up all over the floor. And so I threw up all over the towel. And there was another time that night, I believe it was like an hour after I threw up all over the towel. And when I threw up all over the towel, I believe it was like 2 hours after I got home from school. But anyways, I remember I was trying to make it to the bathroom in time so I could throw up in the toilet, but I couldn't hold, the puke in for much longer. So I threw up all over the carpet in the hallway because I could not make it to the bathroom in time. Sorry about that. That was just a notification on Facebook that someone messaged me on Facebook Messenger. I will read it and reply to that person later. But anyways, back on to the video. And I did not throw up for the rest of that night. And the next day, I just stayed home from school. I did not throw up at all the next day. I just stayed home. And yeah, it really does suck whenever you throw up in public. It's not fun at all. It's humiliating and shit. And hell, that was not the only time that I threw up in public. I believe the first time that I threw up in public was sometime back in kindergarten, I believe. Back in either November, December of 2007, or maybe even January or February of 2008, somewhere in there. I remember it was during playtime, and I was sitting on the rug with this one kid, and I remember I was playing with him. I believe we were playing with like these toy cars or whatever. And while I was playing with him, my stomach started to feel like shit. And I did try my best to make it to the bathroom that was right across the hall from the classroom that I was in, so I could throw up all in the toilet, but I couldn't hold the puke in my stomach for much longer, and so I threw up all over the rug, including all over the toys that we were playing with. And I remember all the kids who were sitting on the rug just like me and that one kid were. They were also playing with some toys. And what they did was they put their toys on the floor and they put their heads up, and all of them watched me throw up, including my teacher. And I remember after I threw up, I felt fine. I was just so fucking humiliated. You know, throwing up in front of, like, all your classmates, including your teacher, who the hell would not even be embarrassed by that? And I also forgot to mention when I told the story about when I threw up in first grade, after I threw up in Miss Johnson's class, I felt fine for the rest of that day. You know, I was just so fucking embarrassed. You know, I don't even know why the hell anyone would not be embarrassed by throwing up in front of someone or anybody else. You know what I mean. I don't really know how else I could explain it. And for those of you who are watching this video, have any of you ever threw up in public? And if you feel like commenting down below and telling the story of when you threw up in public, feel free to do so. And if you don't want to, well, then you don't have to. And also, I believe those were the only times that I threw up in public. I can't really remember any other times that I threw up in public. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say, so that is about it for this video. I hope all of you enjoyed this video, and feel free to drop a like on the video if all of you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more content. And yeah, this is Trey Scott, and I am signing off. Peace out, everyone.